In today's show, Brandon Roy is headed to the draft lottery as a Blazers representative. Can he bring good luck 16 years later? Plus, play reviews of Matisse Thybulle and Cam Reddish. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen, coming at you every single weekday, Monday through Friday. So start your days with it, make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. Today's show, we're talking Brandon Roy. Back in the fold, repping the Blazers in public. He's headed to the draft lottery as Portland's good luck charm. They're hoping for a repeat of 2007. We'll talk about that to begin the show. Then continue our player review series looking at Matisse Thybulle and Cam Reddish. We'll close out the show reviewing those two gentlemen's seasons and then looking ahead to what's next for their potential future in Portland. So, let's talk B-Roy, the natural 007. I don't think anyone ever really called him 007. I certainly didn't. But Brandon Roy, the Blazers announced today on Tuesday, you were listening to Wednesday, May 10th show, and the Blazers announced on Tuesday that Brandon Roy officially will be the team's representative at the draft lottery this time next week, Tuesday, when the NBA sets the draft order for the first 14 picks in the draft for the lottery, and thus all the picks will be determined. The Blazers' fate will be determined. This is a big deal for a couple reasons. I think both sort of like small and big picture stuff. One, Brandon Roy hasn't really done much stuff in public for the Trailblazers. Just really hasn't been much of a public figure. There were times because of the way his tenure ended, right? Like he was on track to be this multi-time all-star, a star. He was probably at his peak in that 08-09 season, like one of the 10 best players in the league. He was just really on his way, and then by 2011 it was over for him very quickly. It ended so fast, and he signs this big contract. He got waived, and he was making $80 million, and they waived him to go away, and his career ended so unceremoniously, and then he tried to stick it back and rekindle it, and it didn't work out in Minnesota. It's just like a really sad end to a guy who had a really special but very short, burned very brightly but very briefly with the Trailblazers. Very special, resurrected them from, they were a mess for a little while, and he brought them out of the darkness and made them fun again. They won that a 54-win season in there. B-Roy was the symbol of the team sort of resurrecting from the dark ages of brief dark ages of Blazers basketball in that middle section of the early aughts. But he hasn't really been around the team. I know some of that was because of the way that ended. He just didn't feel comfortable, wasn't ever emotionally ready to come back to the Rose Garden and then the Moda Center. Should I say the Moda Center? Nay, Rose Garden. He just wasn't emotionally ready. And then I know just from my time around the team is they've invited him a couple times since the early period when he was just like, look, I don't want to make my make my return. But in recent years, a couple times, like he's been coaching high school basketball in the Seattle area, and a couple times they've invited him. He's had some conflicts where they've had basketball games and been in the state tournament, and he couldn't come for when they did Decades Night and they did the 2010s. B-Roy was unavailable because of college basketball or because of high school basketball. 0 for 2, trying to say that right. And then he just again would another time just sort of declined because he wasn't ready to make that public appearance. I know of two specific times when he was invited and wasn't able to come. So I'm sure they've invited him a handful of other times when he just wasn't ready. So this going and be sitting at the lectern for the Blazers with the pinwheel in front of him is the first true public appearance where B-Roy is repping the Blazers. And two, he was a good luck charm in 2007. This is a thing. This is what he did. So Brandon Roy was drafted in 2006. He was the rookie of the year, would have been the unanimous rookie of the year, but shout out to Andre Bargnani for getting one vote. Chuck Swirsky, a legend, voted for my man Bargnani. B-Roy, just shy of being a unanimous rookie of the year. He was great. goes as the rookie of the year, goes to the lottery in 2007. The Blazers go in with the 7th best odds. That's a 5.2% chance of getting the first overall pick, and they win the freaking lottery. They draft Greg Oden. No one was drafted number 2 in that draft. It's really interesting. One of the few years in NBA history where no one was drafted number 2 in the 2007 draft. You can look it up. Like literally no one. It's very, very curious. So the Blazers took Greg Oden number 1 again. No one went number 2. Do not look it up. And they jumped up, tiny little chance, and B-Roy was the good luck charm. And so the Blazers are hoping that now they jump up from the 5th best odds, 10.5% chance, and get a generational big man to anchor and push things forward and usher in the next great era. Sort of Greg Oden joke. We're not going to do Greg Oden jokes here today, at least, but just in general, like. Cool. I think it's cool that B-Roy is repping. And on a personal level, Brandon Roy means a lot to me as a basketball fan. I moved to Portland in 2006 when he did. And I had always been a basketball person. I grew up in a great basketball community, and I was an NBA fan. I loved Hakeem Olajuwon as a kid. I loved those Rockets teams as a kid. I rooted for the Supersonics to beat Michael Jordan in the '96 finals. I was a big time like NBA fan, right, growing up, but I didn't love it. When I moved here in 2006, Brandon Roy made me love it. I think there's a big difference in like following something closely. Like I consider myself a Rockies fan, but I'm not like I don't love baseball, right? I love the NBA. And in some ways, Brandon Roy has allowed me to pursue a career, has set me on a path to pursue a career in basketball that has taken a couple different turns. And I'll spare you the details, but like I owe some of my professional life to Brandon Roy rekindling, or just straight up kindling, my love for the National Basketball Association. His rookie year was so special. And in those years, his brief peak that was so, like I said, burned so bright and burned so brief, he made me fall in love with the NBA, and I still love it some 17 years later. So just on a personal level, awesome. I'm excited to see B-Roy because he means a lot to me and means a lot to sort of where I'm at as an adult. So. Great. I'm happy to see Brandon Roy. It's cool that the Blazers are doing it. It's cool that he's ready to do this and be a public figure for the Blazers. It's good stuff. It is legitimately good stuff. We'll see Tuesday if he brings good luck. And if he does, he'll be there forever. B-Roy, every time the Blazers are in the lottery, you'll have to go back because that will be the deal. So that's the news. Blazers announced it today. Should be a bunch of fun. Check it out. Well, Tuesday, obviously, we're going to do a bunch of draft stuff here on the show. Once we know, we'll do a live show on the Locked On NBA YouTube channel, checking with, getting ready for the lottery. So join me over there when it happens next week. I'll have more on that next week and later this week to kind of give you the details on it. But it's going to be a whole bunch of fun. It's, it's like a half hour, but it's a half hour of excitement. So, and B-Roy will be at the lectern repping. So, cool. I'm excited for it. Second segment. Let's continue our player review series. Let's talk first Matisse Thybulle, then we'll close the show with Cam Reddish. Join me in that second segment. Let's talk about Tease. But first, I want to tell you about Gametime. Buying tickets should not be stressful. If you want to go to your favorite events, why not find the easy way to get tickets for sports, for music, for comedy, and for theater? Plus, killer deals on last-minute tickets and a best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you have when you use Gametime. It's the Gametime app or gametime.co. You don't have to plan months in advance. Like I said, you can get tickets to a day of the event deals for everything you want to go to. Plus, they got the Gametime guarantee. That means you'll always get the best price. And if you find the same tickets in the same section and row for less money, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. You'll get your money back plus a little bit of a bonus. That's the Gametime guarantee. Plus, you can buy tickets in a matter of seconds, just 2 taps, and it's super, super simple. You got it right there waiting for you on your phone. So snag tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, and you get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redemption code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right. So we're continuing our player preview series. We've done a bunch of these. I believe we've done 10 players to date. We started with the guys who were on the roster at the beginning of the season, who were on the opening night roster, so we could revisit my preseason predictions. We've exhausted those, and now we're moving on to guys who joined the team mid-season and looking ahead to what's next with them. So we're gonna revisit the production of Matisse Thybulle and Cam Reddish this year, and then we're gonna look ahead to what's next and what their future is with the Portland Trail Blazers. So let us start with Matisse. The Blazers acquired Matisse Thybulle for a couple second-round picks. A pretty good deal for someone who was a two-time all-defense second-team member with the Philadelphia 76ers. And in 22 games for the Blazers, he averaged 7.4 points, 3.5 boards, 1.4 assists, and 1.7 steals. He shot 43.8% from the floor, 38.8% from three, and 62.5% from the free throw line. He played 27 minutes a night. And what really was different with Matisse in Portland than it had been in Philly was that he was letting it fly from deep. One of the issues with him with the Sixers was that he had just kind of not worn out his welcome, but like it just wasn't a fit there for him anymore. He didn't have an offensive role. His confidence had diminished. He didn't have the space in their system to expand his game, and they needed to move on. Both sides needed to move on. It happens in the league. And Matisse Thybulle, when he got to Portland, Chauncey Billups said, "Shoot it. I want you to shoot it," and he did. Shot a career best, 38.8% from three, and more importantly, 62% of his shot attempts were three-pointers. His three-point rate went up. His three-point volume went up. So he was more of his shots were threes. He was taking more threes, and he shot 38.8%, 33 of 85 across 22 games. Not like crazy volume, obviously, but solid volume and solid makes. If you watch the tape, he's shooting a lot of wide open threes, because even though he's shooting close to 39% from three in those 22 games in Portland, no one is treating Matisse Thybulle like a shooter. He's shooting wide open three-pointers, but he's making them. So it is an interesting balance for people who are treated as non-shooters, because if they don't treat you as a shooter, your shot making doesn't, the threat of shot making doesn't bend the defense and change the way your teammates are guarded. But if you shoot 39%, if you make 39% of your threes, that's enough above the league average that how you're defended and the fact that you do not get defensive attention starts to matter a lot less. There's a break point, and I think the break point is something right around that 39%. Hey, we're going to leave him unguarded, just straight up butt naked in the corner, but he's making nearly 40% of them. So the trade-off is the defense hasn't been bent or compromised, but the 3 points go on the board. And I think if Matisse can continue to do that, that has real value. In his Blazers debut, he showed his value right away. He had 14 points, 6 boards, blocked 3 shots, and hit 4 out of 6 threes in a win over the Lakers in his first game in a Blazers jersey. He had 5 games on the year with at least 3 steals. He had 4 games with multiple blocks, and now he enters free agency. And I think the question for Matisse Thybulle is, where and how does he fit with what's next? He started every single game he appeared in. He played 22 games and played basically 28 minutes a night in those games. And every game he appeared in, he started. He didn't play in the final handful of games because of a knee injury. Unclear to me. I think that was real, but you just never know with how the Blazers were treating injuries at the end of the season. That one seemed more real than others, but truly, who knows? But you assume he's healthy, good to go, no problems, all those things. He'd had some knee stuff with the Sixers is the only reason I bring it up. So you don't want that's not a good recurring knee stuff is obviously bad news. But Matisse is just a really good defensive player, and the Blazers, who have kind of been searching for who could be that point of attack guy for, I don't know, close to a decade since Wesley Matthews left, they may have found someone who can be that in Matisse. He enters this summer as a restricted free agent. He was drafted as the 20th pick in the 2019 draft. He's played his 4 years of his rookie contract. He now enters for free agency. The Blazers can extend him a qualifying offer and make him a restricted free agent, meaning they will be able to match any offer he gets on the open market. Plus, they'll have his bird rights, so they can go over the salary cap to re-sign him. All that means, like, without if that's like too much mumbo jumbo for you, if the Blazers want him back, they have all the mechanisms to bring him back. If they want him to be in the fold, easy peasy, he can be in the fold. It's just a matter of press and go on the sign Matisse Thybulle machine. I think he should be back, especially if they don't trade Damian Lillard and they're going for it, because his defense is valuable. Great defensive playmaker. Great, he got some votes for all defense. Didn't make one of the teams, but was on somebody's ballot. That might be like reputational, but still, like he's legitimately a very good defender. He's one of the best defenders they've had in moons, like in a long time. He's a better defensive player than Wesley Matthews was. Like he's maybe the best defensive player they've had since like Stacey Augmon. Like, I don't know, like who's the last, if you're like a longtime Blazer fan, email me, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. Who's the best legit point of attack defender that they've had? Is it old Scottie Pippen? Like, I know he made an all defense team. Is it old Scottie Pippen? Is that who it is? I don't know. But if it is old Scottie Pippen, that's almost 25 years. It's been a long time. So like that matters. I think the not getting guarded thing on defense is notable, but here's the real truth. That matters more in high leverage games, in the playoffs, in like when teams are getting game plan specific and they're loading up to guard your best players and they're saying, we're willing to live with this. And that's number 4 in the corner shooting. We'll let Matisse Thybulle shoot as much as he wants. We legitimately do not care. I mean, there were times this year in the regular season where they weren't guarding Matisse in the strong side corner, basically unheard of defensive principles in the NBA. It's like, yeah, we're just not going to guard him. We're going to sink into the paint and make sure that Dame has to kick out because we're worried about 0. We're not worried about 4. And Matisse shot pretty well from 3. He made teams pay for the most part, but they didn't guard him. I want to be clear. They didn't guard him. He's getting open looks. So he's shooting 39% on open looks. Great. That's knock them down, make them guard you eventually. But I don't think that really matters too much until you get to the playoffs. I think you can have like some liability stuff on offense in the regular season and get away with it, particularly if you're as impactful on defense as he can be. Because if he can be the point of attack defender that I think at his peak he absolutely is capable of being, like he's really good on that end, and he can guard a variety of people because he has long arms and he's quick enough. He plays angles really well. He kind of baits guys into throwing passes sometimes, like, hey, I'm not actually there, I'm there, and makes steals. Like he has a really, really good sense and a really good, just like a really great feel on defense. And it has the physical tools and sort of the energy to like the want to be a good defender often. All that stuff matters. And the offensive liabilities matter more in the playoffs, but the Blazers just have to get to the playoffs. They need to be good in 82 games and then worry about what's next. And if the Blazers are like, for me, Matisse Thybulle should be part of the plan because he fits a specific need that they absolutely have. And I think like a role for him that I think would be great would be low minute starter. So like, say he starts at nominally shooting guard, right? But he plays the first 7 minutes of each half, and then you extend him more and when the matchup is necessary, but he plays like a guaranteed 14 minutes, and then like matchup dictates whether he plays 20 or whether he just plays like 15 or 16, based on the subs. And then Shaedon Sharpe plays more minutes at shooting guard, but he like soaks up the bench minutes. He plays a lot against backups. And so say you split those minutes, right? That would be it's probably too many, 34 if you just do it like that. But say Thybulle plays 9 minutes to begin each half, and he's up at 18. So that would be 30 for Sharpe, 18 for Thybulle. That's your shooting guard minutes. Like I think you can that really works. And as Sharpe is ready to play more and more and more, that's like penciling him for 30 right away, which might even be too many. But like I think he can be a 30-minute player pretty quickly. It's just like day one, it's like he's 20. It's always a question mark. But I think Matisse Thybulle as a low-minute starter or just a guy who plays roughly half the game as a wing defender, really valuable. So Matisse Thybulle, Shante, you stay. Bring him back. I'm all in favor of it. I think he can be part of the future, particularly if they go the path where they want to be competitive, because he can be that guy. And then when he gets to playoffs, it's a whole other beast, and we'll talk about it there. But to help you win in the regular season, Thybulle absolutely has the skill set to do that for the Blazers. Okay, third segment. I want to talk about Cam Reddish. Let's close the show. Let's talk about Killer Cam. Join me in that third segment, won't ya? Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. Still listening to Locked On Blazers. We're still rolling through our player reviews. We talk Matisse Thybulle. Let's talk Cam Reddish. Cam came over as part of the Josh Hart trade. The Blazers sent Josh Hart to the New York Knicks in exchange for Cameron Reddish and a lottery-protected first-round pick from New York that ends up being the 23rd pick in the 2023 draft. A nice little trade for the Blazers because, if nothing else, Josh Hart for a first-round pick is pretty good value. I mean, I'm a big Josh Hart fan. He's good, and he can help good teams win. The Blazers eventually, the next iteration, will wish they had some version of Josh Hart because he helps good teams win. But a first-round pick and a flyer on Cam Reddish. And the flyer on Cam Reddish is kind of, in some ways, in the eyes of the beholder, in my humble opinion. Because when Reddish was good, he was good, and when he wasn't good, he wasn't. But first, his stats. He averaged 11 points, 2.9 boards, 1.9 assists, shot 44.3% from the floor, 31.8% from three, 83% from the free throw line across 20 games, including 12 starts, and played 27.6 minutes a night for the Trailblazers after coming over in the trade. In his third game in the Blazer uniform, he had 18 points in the Blazers' final game heading into the All-Star break, a loss to the Washington Wizards. Coming right out of the All-Star break, he had 24 points against the Sacramento Kings in a game that Damian Lillard and Jeremy Grant did not play because of snow. There was too much snow and they had to sit out. They were tanking, guys. That's what was happening, y'all. They were losing on purpose and they were just kind of doing it sly, and then they did it for real, but that was the beginning of it. And Cam Reddish in that game had 24 points in a double-digit loss to the Sacramento Kings. From February 28th to March 12th, 8 consecutive games to end February and begin March, Cam Reddish scored in double figures. Every single one of those games, 8 consecutive games in double figures. And during that stretch, he shot 36% from three. And that's really the thing for me with Reddish. Over his first 12 games with the Blazers, he played 20 games in Portland. Over his first 12 games with the Blazers, he shot 38% from three, 26 for 68, 38% from three. He closed the season over his final 8 games, 2 of 20 from three. So the way he closed kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth. And I think 2 notable games is like he scored 4 points twice in the post-tanking era. No Dame, no Ant, no Nurk, no Jeremy Grant. Cam Reddish and Shaedon Sharpe. That was the time that you want to see Cam Reddish say take the reins and be that guy. Be someone who's like, if nothing else, like it's like a high volume go for it, fella. And instead he was invisible in those games, and that is my worry with Reddish. It's not that he isn't good. I think his highs are really special. He's 6'8". He is, as I've said a lot of times, it's a classic Mike Richmond for if you've been listening to the show for a long time. He is shaped like an NBA player. Dude looks like an NBA player. He is, 6'8". He can move. He can handle. Not a great passer, but capable of passing. He can finish around the rim with both hands. His jump shot doesn't go in very often, but there was a stretch with the Blazers, like I said, when his first little stretch with the Blazers where he's shooting above league average from three for a brief run. It looks good when it goes in. He's got the tools. He's a competitive defender because he's long and works hard. And then there's games where he just doesn't exist. And to say Cam Reddish is inconsistent is to say that he's just not very good. That consistency is what separates good, like bench players from starters, starters from stars in the league. Consistency, the ability to do it every night is what separates good players from not very good players. And so Cam Reddish he's not just searching for consistency. Like that's what his whole career has been, is that he's shown flashes. It's like in Atlanta, okay, this is like a young guy who can really defend. And then it didn't work out. He gets traded to the Knicks, kind of just completely fell out of the rotation there and wasn't getting any playing time, gets traded to the Blazers, has these moments where you're like, Cam Reddish can go. Like Cam Reddish can play. This dude can play. And there's moments where it's like, did Cam Reddish play tonight? And consistency is just, it is like, I don't like to say like this dude's inconsistent. Inconsistent is just the name of the game for players who aren't good yet, because good players are consistent. I think inconsistency is more like streaky shooting as opposed to like, there are nights when Cam Reddish isn't good and there's nights when he's good. And that's kind of the nature of folks trying to find their way in the league. He's still trying to find it. So what's next for Cam Reddish? Because, and let me like, if you haven't like picked up on it here, I'll just put my cards on the table. I'm not really a Cam Reddish believer. I was pretty low on him prior to him joining the Blazers, and there was a brief period where I was like, maybe he can get there. And I left at the end of the season. I became pretty skeptical of him being like a high level impact player on a good team, and that's kind of how I how I landed with him. If the Blazers go young, Cam Reddish should absolutely be part of it, because what Cam needs is space to grow. He needs space to grow. He needs, like, give him 25 minutes a night, give him a specified role. Hey, you're going to play 25 minutes a night, you can play 22 minutes a night. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to come off the bench, or you're going to start, and we're going to need you to score, we need you to defend. Like, here is exactly what you need every night. Here's the minutes you can expect. Go for it. And let him make mistakes, let him grow, let him find that consistency, right? Like, let him grow into someone who says, I can do this for sure. And that's, I think, my problem with Cam Reddish, is that Matisse Thybulle has a bankable skill. He's a high-level NBA defender. I don't think Cam Reddish right now has a bankable skill other than looking like an NBA player. I was pretty low on him. I know where he went to college. I know where I grew up. There are certain, obviously, bias at play, but like I feel how I feel, and I want to put my cards on the table. If the Blazers go young, though, give them that freaking space. Give them that space. If they don't go young, which I don't think they will, if they build this team around Damian Lillard and veterans, I am not in favor of Cam Reddish coming back, because he needs space to grow. And like, I would rather have that spot on the roster go to someone who I think has like a bankable NBA skill. Okay, this dude can definitely shoot it. Can't do anything else, but can definitely shoot it. Can't do anything else, but can rebound. That type of thing. Like a bankable skill. Let's build out of the one strength you definitely have and then go from there. Cam Reddish is so inconsistent with, or so just like kind of searching for it with all of his sort of skills. He puts it together for short stretches and then it fades away. It's like, if they go young, go for it. If they don't go young, which I don't think they're going to, if they build this thing back around Damian Lillard, Cam Reddish, sachet away. I mean, that's the real truth. I don't think, like, if he does come back, like, I'm not gonna like kill them or like boo or anything or be upset. Like, I don't like. I don't think if Cam Reddish was like the 12th man or the 10th or 11th guy, back half of the rotation, and didn't have to play every single night no matter what, it wouldn't be that big of a problem. But if you're trying to build a really good team, I think you'd rather have higher upside guys in the very back half of the rotation, or more bankable skills in the front half of that bench rotation. And Cam Reddish, to me, doesn't fit either of those boxes. But again, if he goes young, Shantae, you stay. Like, let's make it happen. Though that is the player reviews. That's Matisse Thybulle. That's Cam Reddish. And we get excited about B-Roy. It's a fun show. Tomorrow's show, come back. It's going to be a whole bunch of fun. That is Thursday, May 11th show. That is going to be our listener summit, where 3 Locked On Blazers regular listeners are going to join me, and we're going to talk about the Blazers offseason. Friday show, we're talking G League with my friend Kevin Dana, who works for the Santa Cruz Warriors and has worked in the G League for many, many moons, and also calls a whole bunch of games. You probably heard him on the NBA app, calling Victor Wembanyama games. You're not going to want to miss those shows. Come back the rest of the week. It's what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.